I'm in the middle of there's a lot of financial tension in here. We can switch if we need to. I don't know.
I'm so yes.
Alright, do it. Do it. To boss you around.
Or you just like prefer they are. I think prefer willing to get either the CPA certification or preferably actually go out and get one. They have to be, is it in Fort County? And just one. Assuming that. That's the one thing missing about it.
So I can just say page 1. Yeah, all my stuff came in. So I can just say
I don't know where I'm at. I'm just kind of rolling it.
All right, we'll call the January 2025 Town of Bowling Springs Council meetings report. Welcome, everyone. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by members of the Bowling Springs math team, coaches Heather Bryson and Adrian Ledbetter, students Piper Bryson, Lily Martin, Jackson Mooney, Avery Norris, and Abel Unitas. You guys want to come up and lead us in the pledge?
Attention salute pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Y'all can get your picture, man.
Everybody say snow day. It's mainly for the teachers.
let's go. We gotta do dinner and basketball.
All right, our next item for the routine business is the adoption of the agenda. As council had a chance to take a look at the agenda, any amendments or items of discussion? If not, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move the agenda be adopted.
All right, motion from Councilman Green, is there a second? Second. Second from Councilman Ellis. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed likewise, and the agenda is adopted. Mr. Evans, regard go ahead.
Happy New Year and happy 2025. Wow. So, starting out one kind of academic update. We've been on a little bit of a break, so we're schooling things back up. Our Tucker Scholar was recently selected. We brought, I believe it was 56 students to campus from all over. And I'm happy to announce that the first Cleveland County resident and Shelby resident was selected for this year's Tucker Scholar. So, long write up in short, Tucker Scholar is our premier scholarship at the university. Full cost of attendance, all that good stuff. So, the young man's name is Will Brooks of Shelby, and he's at Pinnacle Classical Academy. So proud to bring somebody from our backyard in for that prestigious award. The next step, just an open invitation with some of the events going on. Students begin moving back in this weekend. With that, the CAF, the dining facilities, the Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, all of those areas, those all go back into their normal hours. So we want to invite, obviously the council, but the town to come join us there. Winter sports are in full swing. Basketball's this week, Wednesday and Saturday. I've seen a few of you out there already. Come on back, bring your friends. Prayer breakfast on January 15th at the CAF. That is a breakfast. Come out and have a little time of spiritual centering, if you will. Hoops coming on January 18th. That is kind of our spring version of homecoming. We have a doubleheader that day against USC Upstate. And then the last event I have for you is our first pitch celebration. It's kind of to throw the first pitch for the baseball season. And that is on February 1st. So again, open invite, come out, bring your friends, bring your loved ones, and let's have fun together this semester, okay? Thank you guys for the chance. Appreciate it.
All right, now for some real fun, Ms. Kelly, our audit presentation.
Oh yeah, this is the fun part. I'm gonna stand a little over here because I'm loud. Microphones make me a little nervous because I always pop them. So as usual, I handed you out the data input workbook, which is what I am required by the local government commission to present to you, that has kind of a summary of the audit and the findings from the audit. These are the calculations that the local government commission focuses on when they get your audit and review it. And I won't go over every number. I've given you a breakdown of how you come up with the numbers and what pages from the audit that you get that from, so that if you want to look at it, you can, and you can easily find the pages that they come off of. So the first one about the general fund is on pages 14 and 15 in the audit. This is talks about your fund balance. And the local government commission wants you to have 34%, basically meaning what you budget, they want you to have 34% of that sitting in your fund balance, kind of in your cash, your receivables, that kind of thing. And they want you to have 34%, you were right at that. 34.93 is what you were at. So if you remember a couple years ago, you were below that and you worked. Last year you were pretty far above it, but then this year there were some extra expenses that took you back down on that. But still meeting that percentage, it just, as you know, is something to be watched to make sure you don't get back under that again. The other thing they look at is they want to make sure your general fund has a positive fund balance. You did, that's on page 14 of the audit. You had a positive fund balance of just over $2 million. So you're sitting in a good positive fund balance there. The next page is the water sewer fund. So there are kind of 4 calculations that they look at. You met 3 of them. There's one that they consider, they call it a financial performance indicator of concern that you'll have to respond to them on. We talked about it last year because we knew it was coming. And it is where basically your infrastructure is past 50% of its life. And I think they added that in there just because that's a problem in the entire state. All of North Carolina's infrastructure is kind of doing that. Cleveland County, especially when you look at the sewer, it was 20 years ago or so, they came in and gave a lot of these towns around here money to put sewer systems in. They're depreciating, they're down, and there's no money to keep them up. So I think that's why they put it in there. You guys are just at that limit, and so you'll have to respond to them of what your plans are, what you're doing. I know AIA studies, grants, things like that you've gotten, and so, Rhonda will have to prepare a letter that you're gonna send to the local government commission. You guys will have to approve it and sign off on it. And basically, you have to tell them what you're trying to do. If you're, the studies you're doing, the grants, the different things you're gonna do, projects that you have slated coming up, and just kind of keep them aware of what you're doing to make sure that your system, they really just don't want you to get to the point where your system is at the end of its life and you have no plans. And so they really just wanna make sure you see it coming and you have a plan to keep up with the maintenance of the system. Everything else you met, the one thing I wanna, number 5 on there, this is basically your kind of cash basis income loss that they're looking at. It's your net income or loss, and then they add back depreciation and minus out your debt service. And they want that number to be positive. Well, yours was positive, you did meet it. But if you look at 22, then 23, then 24, you're kind of on a downward trend there. And one thing, when I was looking at the comparative of last year to this year, one thing I noticed was, like, your revenue increased 21,000. Your employee-related expenses, because of the wage inflation that we've seen everywhere, went up 45,000. So expenses that you can't not have increase double what your actual revenues increase. So that's something that you guys need to just keep an eye on, take a look at, to make sure that doesn't, every year you've gotta give, you do COLA. When you hire new people aren't coming in for the same wages they used to. Retirement, the retirement matching that you have to do that you're required by the state, that's increasing every year. Health insurance is drastically increasing every year. So you just need to make sure you're keeping an eye on those rates to make sure. And that's just the employee-related expenses. That doesn't count, also there was another $10,000 increase in just the supplies and materials that you bought because of inflation. So there's nothing you have to respond to on those, on that calculation. I just wanted to make you aware of the trend so that you can just make sure that you're keeping an eye on that. And again, just like with the depreciation of the assets, that you have a plan for the future, that you're looking at it, that you don't, if you drop the same amount that you have the past couple of years, then you are gonna get to where there's an indicator of concern that you have to respond to. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, just so you know, those conversations need to start being had, because some of those expenses are gonna go up every year, and there's not much you can do about it. Let's see, the next page is electric, you don't have that. So then on the next page, the things that you have to respond to, everything was within your budget, you didn't have any over expenditures, you're good there. The audit report was submitted on time, you're good there. One thing to be aware of, the local government commission has changed the deadline going forward. It used to be October 31st with a grace period to November 30th, as long as it's in by December 1st. They didn't consider it really late, but they've now said December 31st. With no grace period, because it used to be October 31st grace period. Now there's no more grace period, but as long as it's in by 11:59 December 31st, it's on time. So that's yay for me, I like that. But the only thing is, if you're going out for a debt issue and you have to go in front of the local government commission, you still have to get it done earlier so that it's in, I think, 2 months before the meeting that you're gonna go before them. So we don't wanna, I like the December 31st, but we still it's gotta be done as soon as possible, because you guys do go before them for stuff like that. The one thing on here that you're gonna have to respond to on this page, we did have a finding this year. I don't think it was an intentional thing, it was just the town has grown so much. You're not the small town you used to be, and there's so many grants and so many things. I think some things were separated, and a different person was handling one grant instead of Rhonda handling everything, and there was just the communication between the two didn't happen, because it's the first time y'all really separated out things, and there need to be internal controls in place, and there wasn't, and so there were some expenses that were turned in for a grant, and those same expenses were put on another grant, and you can't double dip like that. It has been corrected, it's been fixed, the grant money that was received for this was paid back to this one, so that it's not, so everything's good, everything's in compliance now. It's just, I had no choice but to give the finding because I found it. There was no control in place to make sure that it was found before I came in for the audit. And I think that's just, it's a learning opportunity for everyone as you grow and as things happen, we just need to make sure that those controls are in place, because you've grown so big, there's really no way around it, can't handle it all. There's too much now. And so when you bring in someone to help, you just need to make sure that those controls that you have, that you look at everything and make sure those controls are in place, so that if one person's handling this grant, it gets communicated over when Rhonda codes it, so that it doesn't get coded to a different grant. Like I said, I don't think it'd be a bigger problem if I thought it was done on purpose to try to double dip, but I don't think that was the case. I think that it was an oversight of, it was for the culvert study, I believe, and so of course you see that, automatically that's Powell bill, but it had already been used for a different grant, so you didn't pay it out of Powell bill. But like I said, the money's been repaid, you're in compliance, so you will have to respond to the OGC about that, and that's exactly what you say. You say, it's already been corrected, the money was, it's in compliance, and then I would say, these are the controls we put in place to make sure this doesn't happen in the future. And I think they'll be fine with that. There was nothing else there. There was just those two FPICs that need to be responded to, and you'll have 60 days from tonight's meeting. So what I suggest is to get the letter ready for the next meeting, have y'all approve it and sign off on it. It has to be signed off by a majority of the council, and then submitted to the LGC through their portal. The management letter, I also attached that. And these are just the things that I think need to be brought to your attention, just to give you a few things that we think can help you out. And the first one obviously is about that finding that we discussed. There's a couple things we found that there weren't things that were brought to the level of the finding, like prior town clerk didn't complete some paperwork that needs to be completed. I'm sure that's already been,
That has been correct.
Yes, that has now, I knew as soon as I told him, he was like, no, I'm done, I got it. So, these are just things that I think that are, things that would help you out. One of the things on there about using the financial system to complete bank reconciliations, this system is difficult, and y'all are already exploring options of different systems, because it's almost impossible in the system that you're using, but I have to put that in there. I have to notate things that I see. None of these are huge things, but they are things that, if not looked at, could cause a problem, like not having that paperwork filled out, because that particular paperwork, if it were discovered by the DOL, is $1,000 fine per form. Nobody wants that. So, but it's been taken care of, as I knew it would be. I know that was long and a lot of information thrown at you, but does anyone have any questions about the items that I presented?
So on the water sewer, as you were talking about the employee benefits versus inflation, because we've tried to offset some of that by the 6.5% increase in our fees, right?
Yes,
So what would have happened if we would not have had that 6.5%? We'd be in much worse shape. So are we looking at greater increases this next fiscal year just to help?
I think, so to me, and Mary Grace is a wonderful auditor, and auditors are limited in what they can tell you. I think you know what I mean. Because there are management things that she can't use words like problem, because that means something to them. But I think that we do have to look strategically at, does 2.5% annually, does that get us where we need to be? And if you look at the, I don't know what we call these things, I just call it the spreadsheet. But on page 4, we see from 22, 23, 24, we're in a downward trend. So to me, that says 2.5% is not doing it. And where maybe at the time we had that rural water study, 2.5% was the maintenance number. But because of hyperinflation and the wage market and everything else, that may not be the number anymore. I think that we're ahead of it this year because where the city of Shelby went up 4% on water, we matched that on sewer, where we didn't necessarily have to, but we talked about all the reasons why we needed to do that. So I think we beat it this year. But, you know, and the weird part about the audit is we won't actually know where we come out on that from this fiscal year until roughly this time next year.
Yeah. Well, I worry about the competing interest of employee benefits versus just take care of infrastructure and those type of things. So I hope that we can keep our eye on that and plan for the future. And then in adding the controls, I mean, and adding a second financial person like an assistant, that will help with the workplace controls and practices and catching some of those things too, right? Okay. That's the question I have. Thanks. Looks great.
I think on when was that rate study done? Was that
21?
Yeah, so a lot of the information they were using was pre the wage inflation that we have seen recently. I mean, it's hard to hire somebody to work on the sewer when Hobby Lobby is paying $23 an hour to stock shelves and health insurance. You know, when you hire new people to come in, you're having to deal with that wage inflation that was probably not taken into account in a study that was done in 2021, because since then it's just exploded. And, you know, we've seen it in our world, trying to hire an auditor. There's an auditor shortage, so they're coming out fresh out of school saying my salary's gonna be $120,000, and I'm going, but you haven't done anything in your life, like, what are you talking about? You know, so we're seeing it everywhere. I think that shortage is why they actually increased the due date, lengthened the due date on the audit, but, yeah, so I think it may be, now I'm not gonna recommend that you go pay somebody $300,000 to do another rate style, I know that they cost a lot now.
They're doing
But
it now.
they are doing it, okay.
Under the AIA grant that we have, we've got a joint
Under,
AIA grant.
well, thank
for
goodness
water
it's
and
under a
sewer.
grant.
Yes, and so it's a joint 300,000,
Yeah.
and McGill will do a rate study as part of that grant.
Perfect, I imagine that that's gonna come back with some very different numbers than it did in 2021. But I know that also the state's aware of it, like the state knows sewer systems especially they're not profitable. And you can't, a lot of times you can't outcharge that, because then people would be able to afford it. And I think they're aware, and that's why they're doing all these grants and trying to figure out funds to give out to do some of the repairs and things that need to be done.
Any other questions, comments from council? Thank you very much, we
All right,
appreciate your work.
thank you, and as usual, we are here all the time for phone calls. If you come up with a question later and you wanna shoot us an email or give me a call, we'll answer as best we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Big thanks to Ron.
Yes.
Tell Foster we said hello. Has anybody signed up to speak, public comment, not on the agenda? All right. Next will be the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Councilman Wood, is there a second? Second, Councilman Thomas. Any further discussion there? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, and the consent agenda is adopted, which will move us to regular business and the Safe Streets for All action plan adoption. Is that, you
Yes.
guys know, okay?
So, you all, I'm sure remember, we, did the Safe Streets for All action plan over this past year. We held some stakeholder committee meetings. And so we've got 2 gentlemen with us tonight. Aaron Cook, who is our traffic engineer. Is that what you are, Aaron?
I am.
I can't remember. Aaron is our traffic engineer, and Andrew is another engineer, who is also, I think, a project manager. Is that right?
We both are. Aaron's your project manager for this. Yes.
We work with them on all kinds of things, and so I can't remember who does what job when. But they do engineering things, and we like them a lot.
Good evening. Thank you all for the opportunity to present the plan this evening. It's been a joy working with the town and staff, and it's really a great place to come work. I know you guys probably remember Andrew from the land use plan a couple years back. So I want to present kind of this SS4A program, and all as a little bit of a reminder to you guys of what the program is, what we did throughout the past year, and some of the projects that have come out of it, as well as a new grant that you guys were awarded previously just last year. So through here, as just a reminder, the SS4A program, Safe Streets for All, it's a USDOT program. It's a $5 billion program that started in 2022. Bowling Springs was actually one of the first awards in the country, so you guys were a great test case, not only for us, but for USDOT as well. Everyone kind of learned throughout these, and they're getting much more efficient, quicker. And, we really appreciate you guys, letting us do this first one. But really, it's looking at all things that go into safety, such as the safe system approach. So whether it be safe road users, whether it be walking, biking, or driving, safe roads, safe speeds, post-crash care. When a serious injury crash happens, how fast are emergency vehicles be able to respond to the crash and get them to the care that they need to get to. So those are the principles that the plan was founded on, and that we're kind of using as guiding principles throughout the plan. 8 steps that the USDOT.
Sorry.
No worries.
That was my fault.
I was going to ask that earlier, but I was going to roll with it. Let's see here. So there's 8 components that USD requires to be a part of each plan. The leadership commitment and goal setting, that's something that you guys started several years ago when you joined the Vision Zero network in North Carolina. You have a goal of achieving 0 fatal or serious injury crashes by 2040 as a town. The planning structure, safety analysis, looking at historical data, identifying where those issues are today, be able to predict and extrapolate the data from that to come up with safety improvements. Engagement and collaboration, hear from your community members, hear from stakeholders of where they feel unsafe, where they think improvement needs to happen. Equity, make sure that everyone in the community is involved in those conversations. Policy and process changes. So it's not only infrastructure related issues, turn lanes, roundabouts, traffic signals, but also what kind of policy revisions can we make as a town that can enhance safety throughout. And then we get into the strategy and project selections, what are those 10, 12 projects that will improve safety throughout the town, and then progress and transparency. This is not meant to be a document that sits on a shelf. It's supposed to be updated every year. So we've created a process where as that new years of crash data comes in, the town, you guys can easily track that and be able to track progress to see how you guys are progressing toward that goal of Vision Zero. We held one in-person public meeting here in this room. We had 39 attendees, wanted to hear really where they feel unsafe walking, biking, or driving. We also held a virtual public input session that was blasting throughout social media. I'm sure you guys participated in some of that. That be able to use a map feature and be able to drop icons where they feel unsafe. 2 big ones that are probably not a surprise to you guys, College and Patrick Avenue was an intersection we heard a lot about, as well as Homestead and North Main, as well as not on this list, but North Main and College. The traffic signal and adding that 4th crosswalk is something we heard over and over again throughout the engagement. As well as, creating a much safe environment to walk downtown, connecting sidewalk gaps, things of that nature. The survey that we also did as part of the engagement, the story to tell here is that if folks felt safer to be able to walk or bike, they would actually be using that. So of the 120, most respondents, or the preference for walking and biking facilities over driving for short trips was something that was a common throughout the survey. And for respondents who chose other in the survey, that those were usually linked to golf cart on the sidebar there. in the crash analysis and hygiene network. So again, we looked at five-year crash history of streets inside town limits as well as ETJ. And then for ped and bike crashes, we actually look back 10 years. You get a much better data set for more of those serious injury crashes. About a quarter of those crashes involved an animal, and a quarter were rear end. Put it in perspective a little bit. A good number of angle and left turn same roadway crashes. And there were three fatalities in town limits and ETJ in the past 5 years. To develop that, or using that, we developed the Hydra network. So where on the street network were these crashes, and how did that relate to the average crash rate in the state? So there's a color-coded map in the, a heat map in the document that outlines areas that have a crash rate that are above the state average. That kind of went into our project selection, so we went into kind of those areas that were located on that map to identify projects and things that could enhance safety in that area. As well as anything where a serious injury crash or a fatal crash that automatically made a pinpoint on the Hydra network. Next was the project list. So we came up with 10 or 11 projects that address some of the safety issues that we saw in the data, as well as what we saw in the public engagement, resulting in new turn lanes proposed, intersection realignments, lots of skewed intersections with no turn lanes. We identified several locations that could be good for roundabout conversion, and then new and improved crosswalks such as that college in Maine in the downtown core. And then the last step in the process is to prioritize those projects, create a game plan for the town to go out and seek funding, on which projects should be kind of higher tier, what we should go after first. And kind of through criteria we use to score those projects, where existing need, where does some of those crash, where does the crash history tell us we need to identify a project, the public concern throughout the engagement, where do we hear that these areas were concerned, and then as well as implementability. So cost estimates, what are some that well within the reach to be able to get a grant or something to be able to construct it, as well as right of way availability. Some projects require total take of property. Obviously, that's going to rank lower than something that can be built within the existing right of way. So using those three criteria, the three projects kind of top of the list were the College and Main intersection, adding that fourth crosswalk, as well as left turn arrows for folks turning left of that intersection. The North Main and East Homestead Avenue, the offset intersection just north of downtown, and then the College Avenue and Patrick Avenue, which is the roundabout that I'm sure you guys have extra interest in. Last but not least, some great news here. As part of the plan, we submitted another grant for the town to get demonstration funds. So there's kind of three buckets of money from USDOT on the SS4A program. There's the planning, which is for the safety action plans. There's demonstration funds, which are built for kind of quick build, temporary materials. However, there are some projects that align with the funding that may not be so much temporary, that you guys could actually lead in. And then there's implementation. There's much more demonstration money out there available. So that's what the town submitted for and received $483,000. About a third of that, or a quarter of it, is going toward the intersection of North Main and College, or Main College, to add that fourth crosswalk, and have pedestrian push buttons on all four corners. And then the flashing signs, there's one out here on East College, there's one on South Main and one on North Main. Those are actually going to be upgraded to what we call rectangular rapid flashing beacons, a much brighter, more rapid flashing beacon than what's out there today, and actually that are compliant with the new TCD. And then also some rubber curb kind of help narrow the lanes on South Main there in front of the Garner Webb campus. So that money will go toward design, construction, and as part of the demonstration project, you have to do before and after studies to see results, better compliance and whatnot. So again, thank you all for listening to the presentation. Happy to answer any questions. But again, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. Any questions or comments from council? At this point, we've got a little bit of discussion on this tonight. A couple of different, the action plan and then the RFQ, I guess, are both related to this.
So the RFQ is secondary, so we need to approve the action plan, and then the RFQ kind of spins off of it.
Okay. Any questions or comments, or, if not, is there a motion to adopt the SS4A action plan?
I move the SS4A action plan be adopted.
Councilman Green with the motion on the table, is there a second? Second from Councilman Thomas. Further questions or comments?
I want to comment on that, Ms. Knowles. Some of this, it's just verified things that we've already, issues that we already were aware of. Of course, I think you just add viability to that, I guess. But even in some of the MPO meetings, some of these intersections are actually discussed there. And I think maybe with this plan, maybe we get some more, give us a little more power with DOT because they recognize it and some of these improvements are actually on their watch lists. So I think it's a very good plan and a lot of work and hope we see a lot of action.
Well, and as we see more growth, we hope that we'll have growth and add to our tax base. I mean, that's just gonna complicate this further, so, these are great steps moving in the right direction, so.
Anybody else? Great points, gentlemen. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? And the action plan is adopted unanimously. So now we'll move to the East College Avenue parking discussion, with the opportunity for parallel spots.
Yes, sir. If y'all, so in your agenda packet on page 186, that is the downtown master plan, and it shows you the proposed treatment for that or for the road. That's it, right? That shows you the proposed treatment for right out here in front of town hall. I didn't print you off one of these to blow it up, but, when we were looking at this, the internal discussion that we had was, I took it to DOT to ask them kind of what their preference would be. The interim treatment for the road out here is to install bicycle lanes. NCDOT was not a fan at all of doing that. For several reasons, but mostly because once you get past the funeral home right here, the lane collapses back into itself, and so the bikes would merge right back in, so they don't see a lot of purpose in that. And so on 187, in your agenda packet, but you have a printout of a big, large map in front of you. Mr. Cook made the, I forgot there were two Mr. Cooks. Aaron, our traffic engineer from Bolton Mink, made this rendering and submitted it to DOT, and it shows how we can potentially add 13 parallel parking spaces right here in front of Town Hall. We felt like this was the best option moving forward because it seemed like from the downtown master plan, council, at least at that time, wanted us to do some type of road narrowing measure right here in front of Town Hall, which checks off all the best practice boxes and Safe Streets for All things and Vision Zero things, and they call it a road diet, which just makes the road more thin and narrow. But it also helps with the parking issue that I think we all hear pretty routinely. And I'm here to answer any questions, and I'm sure Mr. Cook is as well.
guess I have two questions, and one is Turner Trucking and how narrowing implementing a road diet would affect those vehicles. But also, I guess my concern is is individuals exiting their cars and then going across to, what do we call that, university, something, where Subway and all that stuff is.
Yes.
And I just think that could potentially create some dangerous crossing there. I didn't know what our ideas on that were.
I had a couple, I had a shocker there.
Yeah.
I wanted to put the parallel parking spaces on the other side of the road and then paint them and then say to DOT, hey guys, look, y'all painted these parking spaces here, now there's no sidewalk, why don't y'all run a sidewalk? But nobody else liked that idea, and that's fine. We've kicked around installing an additional crosswalk, a mid-block crossing, right there on the, I don't know, the western edge of the town hall parking lot, between what is, between here and the hair salon that Emily's sister Jennifer works at, and I can't call the name of it. Salon? No.
Salon on Main.
Salon on Main. That's Salon on Main. And so potentially, in the next little bit of time, trying to get a crosswalk established there. And if that's a concern for folks about how they would cross the road, then I think we can expedite that. To the Turner Trucking, I am acutely aware of the, that we are a town of 4,600 that has an industrial trucking depot right in the center of it. And so my conversations with Mr. Clary at DOT constantly revolve around, we want to do X, Y, or Z, but I need to know how the Turner trucks can cope with that. And that's a very frequent conversation we have. He doesn't see any problem with this. And so from his expertise at DOT, he says that, 12-foot wide roads or lanes like this would create, should not be any kind of issue with Turner Trucking. Essentially, and I don't know how good of a view you have of it, but it would slide the center line to the north. And so the lane would shift slightly as you come in front of Town Hall, and then it would shift right back. Aaron, did I characterize that correctly?
Good.
Don't let me lead people astray now. They call that a line taper. I've been picking up all kinds of new words.
Other questions or comments?
Why did nobody like the idea of putting sidewalk on the other side?
Because they don't think DOT will do it. And also with the, universities, see, I'm telling you, I thought that was it. But anyway, with University Square, the entrance being where it is, you have to have those sight lines. And so it wouldn't be 13, it would be significantly less.
We're talking 13 spaces.
Yes.
Yeah, it would only be 5 or 6.
Was it 5? I was thinking it was 5 or 6.
There's also a mailbox there as well.
Oh, yeah, and there are mailboxes there. So it wouldn't have gotten us the yield would not have been as much.
My question would be, so we have plenty of internal storage at University Square and the businesses, even Town Hall. I mean, what's the overall point of adding 13 spaces? People want to park conveniently to the business that they frequent. And so I don't know that I don't know who this benefits. Except, the road diet will slow the traffic and those type of things. I understand we don't have enough parking in certain areas, but that would be my concern is there not enough internal storage in those parking places now without having to put more parking in the street? And would it be easier to do some other type of calming type thing? So anyway, that would be my concern. Why would we want to add more parking out there? To me, it seems like it would create some sight distance problems coming out of town hall and going into town hall. Potentially a different situation altogether.
Yeah, and so I think that with the bicycle lane, when you look back at I can't read that small number, 186, our eventual plan for that road is to, according to the downtown master plan, at the bottom of page 186, proposed long-term is to develop two 11-foot wide lanes. And so this gets us closer to there, but it doesn't narrow the lanes as much as the downtown master plan wants us to, with other projects also in the hopper like Town Commons.
Yeah.
The potential for that, I think, striking while the iron is hot, and, since DOT just repaved the road, this is the time, if we want to paint it before they paint the regular white line back in place, later this spring.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I mean, overall, years from now, Town Commons buildings there on that front part of the lawn and all that stuff. But, just, I don't know about the internals. I mean, plenty of storage otherwise, so I don't know why we would be adding more on the street. That's already a sort of a problem for us. Did I say problem? Sort of a potential issue.
And I agree, and then, you add in people backing in, parallel parking places, blocking traffic, and then the issue that the mayor mentioned, was them opening and stepping out into the street. Personally, other than us wanting to narrow the road and calm the traffic, I don't really see the need for parking there. I mean, already said, there appears to be, University Square there, Clinton's has adequate parking. As far as I know, I've never been there that I couldn't find a parking place. They also have parking in the rear, by the way. And then we have plenty of parking here at the town hall, so, other than narrowing the street to calm the traffic, is that, well, what did the study say we need more on-street parking?
The downtown master plan does,
But see, here again, and I don't wanna sound anti-business, but here we're gonna spend a lot of money to make parking places for businesses when we required University Square to have their own parking. And like I say, I don't wanna sound that, and I'm not in favor of us doing things to hurt the business, but I am a little bit concerned of us spending a lot of money to make parking places for businesses when we require new businesses to provide their own parking.
Other questions or other comments on the issue? Really, there's no formal vote needed here, just looking for consensus. How do we feel on this side?
we can do something, or we don't have to. It doesn't matter to me. I just felt like, since it's in the master plan, I wanted to say to you all, hey guys, do we remember this, and or do we want a bike lane? Do we want parallel parking? Do we want nothing? Doesn't matter to me. Just wanted to bring it back up.
But some of the discussion was that DOT was going to redo the road and do the lines. It's easy to do it now.
Yes.
And the cost for us would be what?
About $5,000.
We inquired about this several years ago, and they told us it wasn't possible.
Yes, I remember, hearing that, but I don't know, we have a new division engineer, and, I don't understand DOT as a general thing, but, I think he gets to decide. I never know who gets to pick.
Oh, I understand that, but it's a change from what we were told previously.
And if we wanna hold off, we can surely wait, it's not, imminent. But they're scheduled to repaint they will not repaint the lines with anything but that little piddly spray paint, unless we pay for it, until the entire project has been completed, which is all the way from here to 18. And so that won't be until later this spring, because the cold weather messes up the asphalt and the way that it cures.
Thoughts?
I
mean, I was okay with this until I heard the concerns raised from Councilman Green, Councilman Thomas. And I think the one that would bother me the most is what was mentioned about stepping out of your car and walk across the street, because that could be a potential liability. I don't know who would bear the brunt of that if an accident happened there because of our new parking places, but I think because of that, I would probably not be in favor of it.
I agree. We got spaces where they can park. Not like we need those spots to park as such.
Yeah, and that lot's empty. I mean, y'all drive by, y'all know, that lot is, I mean, it's not like it's heavily used. We're not bursting at the seams. But, okay, easy enough.
Next up is the RFQ for the Safe Streets for All.
Yes, so, Ian, this is a little bit different than what we normally do. But you all have, with the approval of the consent agenda and, the budget amendment for the South Main Street Improvement Capital Project Ordinance, you all have now appropriated that $483,000 into the capital project ordinance. And so we are required, because this is a federal grant, to issue requests for qualifications. We did submit, we received qualifications, and staff recommends that we go with Bolton Mink. The panel consisted of me, Mike, and Isaac, and we met yesterday and reviewed those. They were far and away the high scorer. And all that's gonna do is allow me to execute a contract with them so that they can administer those funds at the same time that they're doing the project, under which we are already, in a contract.
So this is essentially a formality. Any questions or comments on the RFQ selection? If not, is there a motion to approve? Do we need to approve Bolton Mink? Is that the language, or?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to approve Bolton Mink.
Second.
Councilman Thomas with the motion, Councilman Green with the second. Other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, and that carries unanimously. Economic Development Plan.
Yes, thank you, sir. This plan, was developed by Marty, Vangness. I can't remember how to say his last name, because it's not how it's spelled. The plan starts on page 218. I was not, unless you all wanted me to, gonna go through this with you, but, it's like, most of our other plans, so it's broken into goals. It's got the short term, the medium, and the long term goals, and he's got some key recommendations in there. It comes with 2 appendices, and so the first one that's in your packet there is a guide to business mentoring, which Isaac has been familiarizing himself with. And then the second appendice is the Startup Business Environment Self-Assessment that we are gonna take and do a self-evaluation of the town. The plan boils down to a couple of things. One, Mr. Magnus recommends that we create a small business incubator space as a town. And what we've kind of loosely called a small business catalyst center. But it's the same idea that you all have with the business committee, that we create an ecosystem and an environment where small businesses can thrive and succeed. And that we work with them and talk to them and coach them and mentor them. We're well on our way to doing that. The Cleveland County Small Business Center, which Mr. Padgett runs, is gonna start actually using a space here at the town hall to host meetings with local small businesses once a month. And so that's something we've had in the works since about October. And so now that we're moving into the new year, he's gonna branch out this direction. That's the main recommendation. The second one is to make sure that, there we go, small business ecosystem, and I don't wanna go too fast, but if I need to, so just let me know if I need to pump the brakes, but The next one's enhancing retail, looking at our infrastructure, town-owned streets, GOT streets, sidewalks. And so the idea is you create a place where small businesses can grow, you create a place where people can walk between them, and then the third step is to create a reason for people to come. And that, in his opinion, is some kind of flexible retail space, and we do that by working with developers. And then that leads into the fourth thing, which is we have like a niche kind of business. And he says, his belief is that we could do that through a food-focused community kitchen, working with our community garden, to try to recruit maybe like a specialty restaurant or specialty chef that works as a partner with our community garden and does a farm-to-table concept. And there's a sixth recommendation here that kind of follows along the same food trajectory. But it gives us several helpful things that we can do, especially in the immediate term, to work with small businesses and to help go out for grant money related to capacity building, and it pays for staff time. And then we can actually help launch that business incubator nonprofit using grant money, so that it's at no cost to the taxpayer.
So nothing binding on,
No, sir.
just a general framework as we do these types of long-term
Yes, sir.
situations. Any other questions on the economic development plan? If not, is there a motion to adopt the economic development plan created by Mr. Banks?
Move the economic development plan be approved.
Councilman Green with the motion, is there a second? Second from Councilman Thomas, any further discussion? Questions, all those in favor say aye. Opposed likewise, and that carries unanimously. Final on the business is the subcommittee discussion and work session schedule. My assumption is we will just, if we approve these, then that is where it becomes easier to cancel these than to keep them on the books. Is that correct? So we wouldn't necessarily meet on all these days, but
Yes.
they would be available
Right.
and open for public.
Yes, and then we've got, so these meetings would function as normal council meetings. And so if an action is taken at these meetings, then that action is binding on staff. And it would be up to council at its next meeting to change its corporate opinion of what may have transpired at a subcommittee meeting. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't, it makes sense what you're saying, but it doesn't make sense to me that we would call these subcommittees anymore. And so to me, because of the language from the School of Government, I guess,
Yes, sir.
it's it does away with our system of subcommittees. And so in my opinion, this is just me, speaking, that we should just hold our business on the first Tuesday of the month. And if we have to go a little longer sometimes, then we will, but, I think it's quite redundant to call a subcommittee meeting a regular council meeting. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
Well, they don't have to be, I mean, the statute talks about different roles, advisory, administrative. I mean, I think as I recall, this conference that we had last month was we're setting up the dates more out of an open meetings concept than to disrupt, or inhibit, your ability to conduct business in a more efficient way by use of subcommittees or whatnot. It could be, and I'm not studying your subcommittees, I assume they're probably more advisory or administrative in the sense that y'all kind of meet, kind of come up with some concept, not really deciding anything typically, I don't think. I think you maybe present it to the board and to the extent that they've been used before, and then, it's been determined and discussed, at the council meeting. I don't know that I've ever recalled a situation where a decision was made that would be binding on council based on the way you all use subcommittees. So, I think it still could be used in a way to
parameters around what, you know, what the committee can and can't do. You know, I think the point was, ultimately was, is it really comes down to an open meeting situation, more so than to try and stifle, you know, efficiency. That makes sense.
I think our sticking point was that we always had operated under the assumption that if it was the mayor and two, there was no legal quorum. And so they could not take action and it could not be a meeting. But that's what the school came in and said, no, it is still a meeting because I don't know the statute, I'll just be honest. It's something about open meetings and I'm not a lawyer, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I know that's, the statute is specific, it's not like if y'all happen to be at, you know, at a snack shop, but if it's a form of committee, you know, then it would fall under the open meetings requirements. And the statute lists, it lists a series of, administrative, whatever the functions might be. As opposed to just, you happen to meet, you know, if you're out on the street, and you happen to run into each other, you know, that wouldn't trigger what we're talking about here. This is a formal committee, subcommittee, operating for specific purposes, and that would fall under the open meeting.
Yeah, it's a public body meeting for a public purpose in conducting the public business. And I think the school system has subcommittees, but they do this model where they've said these are the people on it and this is the time that they meet, and I think it's like Tuesdays at 12 noon, at the county office in some room upstairs. And so they have gone through this kind of rigorous second level of work. Because typically, you know, especially with the Y subcommittee, you know, we would text, hey, can you meet Thursday? Yeah, come on in here, let's, you know, chase this cat a little bit. Or whatever, you know, when we all did Lattimore, you know, when we were looking at CIP or things like that. So it's really up to you all, if this is one of those, how you want to organize yourselves. I've reached out to see if other municipalities in our area use this subcommittee framework. The school system's the only one that does. The county doesn't, Shelby and Kings Mountain don't, and nobody in Rutherford County said that they did. But I know the school system does, and I don't know what the genesis of that was.
Of course, with that, you've got the onus of keeping minutes and, you know, all that, those functions, whatever it's worth.
I'm not sure I totally got my hands around this yet, but like when we formed a subcommittee to interview for town manager, would that be part of this?
Technically, but that then falls under the framework. You've got to keep in mind too, that there's certain, allowances for closed sessions and things of that nature. So there may be some overlap, but just in the general meeting to, you know, when you're talking about discussing qualifications, things like that, there's certain times where that example would probably be protected under a closed session, but in which case you're still taking minutes, still, you know, keeping a record of the meeting. It just wouldn't necessarily be open to the public in that situation.
So give me a good example.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of committees.
A good example of us potentially
What
violating
we're
the law.
talking about, subcommittee,
So, you know, like if the Parks and Rec subcommittee wanted to get together to talk about the Boiling Springs Little League. And so we tell all of you, and we tell the public, hey, the subcommittee's meeting at 6 o'clock on Tuesday to go through this. And, let's just say that on the off chance, you may not be on that subcommittee, but you're interested in the subject matter. And you show up, and the other two people are Councilman Ellis and Thomas and the mayor. Well, now that you're here, it's a party, because there's three of you. And if you all vote to approve that contract, then you as a corporate board have now told me that I have to execute that contract. Even though in that example, council members Litton and Wood wouldn't have been here and may not know the subject at all, that it still is a quorum, a majority of you all have now told me to do something and I have to do it.
So transit.
what if I didn't show up?
Well, that's where it gets sticky, and that's because your example about the interviewing the town manager, right? So that's always, my understanding has been the mayor and 2 council members.
It was.
And the School of Government, because I submitted our unique case when they said this, they said if they are meeting as a subcommittee or a work session or whatever you wanna call it, if a subset of our elected board is meeting together to discuss what is public business, even if they're making non-binding decisions, that is a public meeting. And I said, well, here's kind of what we do. I don't think you're talking about us, right? She said, oh, no, I'm talking about you. I said, oh, okay, well, oops.
But I think in the long and short of this thing, so we were wanting to make sure that we were complying with the open meetings law. Second of all, we were looking at a way of still forming, advisory type, teams so that we could work on projects and bring that back to the full board. And then the third thing was to reduce the cost of that as far as having to post those meetings and then cancel them and all that good stuff. And that's why we developed the schedule. So as long as we have those parameters in place and we remember that, I mean, and we set those parameters, that it is an advisory type situation, then I don't see why we would want to try to just have this basic guidelines and move forward. Because I think there's a great benefit in having teams of subcommittees or whatever you want to call them to discuss things and work on things. But,
And I don't disagree with that. I guess the problem is, you know, we're gonna say, you can only meet on the 14th, 11th, they, you know, when.
Well, you can meet otherwise, but you would just have to publish the notice.
So
You have to plan out ahead enough time so that you could make the publication
There's
deadline.
not gonna be any,
No,
like tonight, he wants
Right.
ad hoc committee, we need to meet next week, we gotta get this settled.
if it's something different than what's kind of identified here.
It would need to rise to the level of an emergency.
But there's nothing to stop an informal meeting in that situation.
one more thing.
Yeah.
I-
Well, yeah.
I definitely hear the point. My concern is, and I think what this school of government's concern is that, especially in our situation with 5 members, that a 2-person subcommittee only has to convince 1 more person. And so if the 2-person subcommittee is meeting, there's no accusations here, that's not the way we run our business, it is not the way we run our business. But in theory, a 3rd person could show up to these open meetings laws and make it happen. And I just think that as long as we're 5, if we move to 7 or if we move to 9 in the future, then I think these open meeting subcommittees could be of value. But I think that the discussions we have here, and I could be wrong, if we develop a problem with another entity like we dealt with the YMCA or with Lattimore Sewer Committee, you know, to your point, I'm not sure we have those pressing needs. But that's me. I'm open to attending these meetings on the second Tuesdays when we need them, if the council desires. I just worry about now that it's an open meeting, 1 more person can come, but we've always operated under the idea that no more than 2 will come.
Right.
And I don't know that we can say, we can't forbid more than 2 from coming to these open meetings.
Well, we could have a gentleman's agreement.
We could, for sure. And that would work. I mean, we would.
And to me, to have more would kind of defeat the purpose of having it, would it? You know,
But we may not always be the ones up here, and in the future, a 3rd person could show up and make things happen when, you know.
And to belabor the point, you think about things like the budget, where the 3rd person we could have a committee on the budget, and then we maybe have a public hearing, and we always wait another month, but statutorily, you don't have to wait 10 days. And the budget committee waits 10 days and meets, and then the 3rd person walks in and says, we're gonna adopt the budget.
well, I'm gonna be upset with the mayor if we he wants a committee to do the budget. I mean, I don't have any issue with it, I think more we talk, the more I kinda agree with the mayor.
Me too.
And I think whatever we decide on, like the mayor's already, I think we will abide by that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think whatever we adopt, I think we'll be all right, we'll make it work, hopefully. You know, if he appointed Ron and Bill to a committee, then I have always made it the point not to go,
Right. They take care of it,
take care of it,
bring it back to the board.
so.
And once again, this is one of those things that you didn't think this one would take that long, but, you know, it is also the case that by adopting this schedule, we certainly can cancel each of these dates, and that, to your point, is the reason to avoid the posting fees or whatever you call it, to publish them. It's easier to cancel the meetings than to get them on the books one at a time. And so that is a benefit to go ahead and adopt the whole schedule. If something comes up later, then we have these already published, I guess, or whatever, whatever that terminology is.
They are, yes, sir, and it's.
Basically, the same as when we meet.
Yeah, and that's, so we picked
We're not gonna be.
Tuesdays, thinking they were blocked off, but it ends up being about $300 to post it in the newspaper, and you can't just do it now. You know, like we call on Wednesday and they put it in there. It takes about 3 days. There's a weird floating deadline that I don't understand, I'm not smart enough to understand it, but Tracy is, and, so it's a weird, like, you gotta have it in there by Sunday, and I don't know what.
Does it actually have to be in the physical newspaper, or is it posted online?
It has to be in the physical newspaper. and
Which is the worst place to do it.
That can't last much
If
longer.
you're
Sometimes it has to be on your principal bulletin board where a reasonable citizen would be able to see it. And when did you all declare a principal bulletin board? 'Cause that's a good question.
I apologize, I take responsibility for making this one last too long. What is the pleasure of council?
I mean, I don't see, I go either way, I mean.
You're not binding yourselves to have those subcommittees all of a sudden, you know, but if you did, you have dates available to use. But
You can, and then if you call for a meeting, this is gonna get real convoluted, but if you call for another meeting, in an open meeting, then the law presupposes that any citizen who wanted to hear that you were having the new called meeting should have been at this open meeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the law says this is an open meeting, so if you wanna call for another open meeting, it negates some of those posting requirements. So if you all met on the first Tuesday of the month and said, okay, we're gonna have a committee meeting on, next Thursday at whatever time, and you do it in the open setting, then it goes in the minutes, and it goes everywhere else that it should go, but we don't have to post it in the paper because this is an open forum. Anybody could have come in here and listened. So that's always a tool at your disposal. We'll do whatever.
Would we need a motion if this were to be adopted?
If you want to adopt it, yes, sir.
Is there a motion to adopt?
I make a motion to adopt.
All right. Motion to adopt by Councilman Green.
I second.
Okay, Councilman Wood with the second. Any further discussion?
Just add, if we need to do something differently later, we'll deal with it then.
All right, and is there a deadline by which we would need to cancel the January 14th meeting?
I was gonna, so once you all voted, I was going to say, does anyone want to meet on the 14th? And then I will need you to make appointments to two of the committees.
Okay.
Oh, you should have told us that before.
Well, we can still vote.
We back up now.
There's just a motion and a second. We can still vote it down. Any further discussion or questions on this one? All those in favor of adopting this subcommittee calendar, say aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
4-1, I believe. So the schedule is adopted. But we don't need a motion to cancel the January 14th, because that's next week, right?
We've got an open meeting, they should have been here.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's
In
much
fact,
easier.
probably as many people know it now as know it when it comes to the paper.
I tell you what, I always get a call. I do always get one phone call, from a certain former mayor who reads the classifieds.
Not me.
Well, what
We've got on Parks and Rec, we have Councilman Ellis, the mayor's on all of these, congratulations. Councilman Thomas. Is that fine still?
Yes.
I'll be glad to serve in that capacity.
For Lattimore Subcommittee, we've got Councilman Litton, the mayor, and an empty seat. So who would like to, assuming that Councilman Litton's gonna stay on the Lattimore Subcommittee,
Fucking.
is there anyone else who would like to serve?
I'll join with you.
Streetscape, Councilman Green and Ellis. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure what the purpose of this one is, because it says to guide the implementation of the master plan. So do we wanna update that one to the South Main Street improvements?
I think that's what that, I don't think that's probably the intention of it. That's already kind of going on and.
Yep. South Main. I'm sorry, I gotta make notes. All right. Capital Improvement Subcommittee, Councilman Litton, and an empty seat. So we need one.
That's sewer.
CIP.
It's the CIP, which is currently in development, by McGill and Associates. But, it's to oversee the town's investment in capital and review the capital improvement plan to ensure that projects are included in the annual budget. Do we want to combine that with Lattimore? Because those are both capital sewer related, water, sewer. those
I'll be
are-
okay, and that way I'll serve on both of them,
Okay.
Councilman Wood.
I'm just trying to think about how we can maybe whittle down the total. We have 7, so if we can combine them maybe. Business engagement, so this is council members Thomas and Ellis. We started this one, and now that we have the kind of business commission that meets with small business owners, do we wanna keep this as a subset of that? Dealer's choice.
It doesn't matter to me either way. What's your pleasure?
We've had a good response to it,
Yeah.
turnout.
And we'll still have those meetings with the wider business community. I just invite all of you to those.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to have a subcommittee for that. I think we could attend those meetings, all of us collectively if we wanted to.
All right, ethics, the ethics subcommittee, I don't think we need any more because you all completed your, that review last year. And then charter revision, which is sitting in a folder in my desk and it's proposed to be finished. And so that is council members Litton and Thomas, and that's to review, evaluate, and revise the town's charter.
Continue. Pat's been real quiet tonight, I'm so You would bring us a revised, what revision you have so far, right? I mean,
Yes, so you all have, as a council, will have to vote. to
we would
approve.
have to vote, and at that point, we could discuss it and change it and.
Yeah,
send it
Sarah Clark.
back. So I don't know that we need a subcommittee for that.
No.
So that will leave us with Parks and Rec. I'm just gonna call it capital improvement, but we'll tuck Lattimore in there too, so we'll call it cap. And then streetscape / South Main Street. Okay. All right, easy enough.
We cut it down to 3.
We cut it down to 3.
And then with those 3, we don't have to meet on these dates, we can, I mean, when do we
No,
cancel?
you have to meet on those days.
No.
Or, yeah, it's already put in.
It's in there, but we can cancel any time with no fee, right?
But if you do meet,
It has to be on those dates, but I mean,
Yes.
we don't have to meet on those dates.
My assumption is, and I get nervous, but I assume you all don't wanna meet on January
We won't
14th.
have to pay $300 to have
And
it.
so we don't have to meet January the 14th unless there is a pressing
It's
need to
Monday.
do so. Right.
And when it comes, I think what, Ron is saying is, if it comes that time you meet, you can change that date, you just have to make sure it met the criteria, or you can cancel it.
If you change it though, it's gonna cost you $300.
Yeah, if you change, you gotta put it in the paper.
But if you cancel it, that's
outside
all
of
city
business
service.
That's right, but I mean, if you needed to meet, but you need, and you have to meet, you need to meet, you can't meet on that day, you could change, it's gonna cost $300 to meet on that day, or you don't.
Or you can cancel and meet on the next day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can put it off a month.
be that you all are gonna, all the committees are gonna wanna meet on the same day at the same time, and we're gonna have to divide the room up. That's what's gonna be the issue.
Sorry, man, I didn't get my name on any of those.
Well,
You get to go to the NBA.
that's right, you get the country, yeah.
Great.
Mr. Manager, you're up.
I have a very quick few updates. I don't mean that as a joke. I mean it for real. So, a couple of things here. Downtown master plan. So, we're gonna have a refresher for the downtown master plan with the planning board at their January 21st meeting. So that is an open meeting and it is a called meeting, and so you all are welcome to attend. And so if you would like to attend, I wanted to extend that invitation to you. That's all we're planning to do with them that evening, is to go through the meat and substance of the downtown master plan. And we've got, the packets ready. They're on 11x17 paper like they were when we originally got them. But now that we're closing in on actually doing some of those things, I wanna do a refresh, make sure everybody's good with it, to kind of see what direction we're going in. So you're all invited to that. The Foothills Legislative Breakfast, the Foothills Legislative Commission, Foothills Regional Commission's Legislative Breakfast, there we go. At the Toronto Equestrian Center is on January 27th at 8 in the morning. If you would like to attend, please let me know. Right now, it is me and Councilman Wood, Councilman Green, write that somewhere. Tracy, will you write that? No, I got it. Okay. Anybody else wants to go to that? Can't remember who all went last year. Councilman Litton.
I went last week.
Okay. I was thinking, and we usually let, some staff usually attend, I think. Litton and Green. Anybody else?
You put me down for that?
Yes, sir. Litton, Green, Wood, me, and we'll take some staff too. And we'll carpool. The doors open at 8 o'clock. They backed it up this year, so it's a little bit earlier in the morning, so, we will be in touch. And that's on 127. And then on 130, Councilman Wood, Councilman Green, and I will be in Kannapolis for the Essentials of Municipal Government. Others are invited to attend if you're interested. It is sure to be a good time. And so we'll be in Kannapolis on the 30th, and then we'll drive back, and then we'll go back on the 31st.
Is that, Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday?
I think it's Thursday, Friday.
Thursday, Friday.
Okay.
Couple things about 2025 events. Tracy and I sat down today, and Tracy put together a calendar, wanting to try to go on and get one year-long event calendar in place, so that will help us on the marketing side, but also helps us plan around other people's activities. And so then we share that calendar with Shelby, Cleveland County, our Rutherford County partners, so that everybody knows who's doing what when. And we'll need to share it with the Greenway as well. And so, are we, for Music on Main, did we come down on the side of having 2 events or 4 events? Tracy and I could not remember.
I was thinking it was 2.
I don't remember.
I don't remember discussing it.
I don't remember. Maybe we did. Maybe I dreamed that?
No?
Okay. I think we kicked it around. Does anybody have a preference? 2 or 4? Does not matter to us. So let me segue into, we talked about doing, Music on Main with some other more, maybe like a different kind of feel to it. So instead of, doing Music on Main and a car show, or Music on Main and a craft fair harvest festival. Or we've had some folks who talked about wanting us to have a wine festival. And so we want to pair Music on Main with a wine festival. I don't know. I just throw chum in the water.
I think all those things sound good to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'd be more highly attended.
And a chili cook-off. I'm fat, so I thought, chili cook-off. Right, I'd knock somebody down for that. Doesn't take much, but, I like chili. But, so we'll get together, put those on a calendar and get that to you in February. And so Tracy and I will look over those. we're trying to schedule another Kids Day in the park, and we may not pair this one with Music on Main like we did this year. But definitely want to keep, make sure that folks have some attention in the park. We're working with the YMCA, spoke with them today about that, and about potential maybe for some partnerships there, more information forthcoming. We want to, in February, get a date for the Christmas parade as well. We want to get that on the calendar. Do we want to move back to our original date, or did we like how it worked this year with the caveat that we'll move the Christmas tree lighting up about half an hour? Initial thoughts? You're not gonna hurt our feelings?
I liked it this year.
There were a ton of positive comments.
I didn't have any negative comments. I did before it happened, because everybody's used to the date. But once it happened, I didn't hear a negative comment. In fact,
Yeah,
I
good
heard very
turnout, too.
positive.
Good
Turnout was good. I think maybe we can keep expanding it and working on it. I liked it, and like I say, I would prefer sticking to Saturday. That's just my preference.
I agree.
I think the parade draws a captive audience, and once you have a captive audience, as I'm living proof of this, once you have them, you don't have to necessarily let them go.
And the kids singing brought a lot of those
Yeah.
comments in, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think we can keep tweaking it a little bit, and I think it can maybe grow into a much more major event than that.
A lot of work went into it, Tracy. Good job.
Sure did.
Yes,
Great.
absolutely.
Tracy and Renee and Rhonda and the Jazzy Gals, I don't know what they call themselves. They have a name. I call them the Jazzy Gals, but Rhonda calls them something else. But it's the party planning committee, but we don't call it that. The Jazzy Gals are from the show Schitt's Creek. And so that's kind of just doing that. But Rhonda has a cuter name for them than I do.
It's the fun girls of Mayberry.
The Fun Time Girls, yes, that's what Rhonda calls
Just the fun
I don't
girls.
remember. But, they do a great job with all those things that I can't do.
Taller
Um,
girls.
Let's see here. Do we want to do something Halloween? We sponsor the Oktoberfest with the university, which I think is wonderful. I don't know that we need to branch out and do our own thing, but we were gonna throw it out there just to see.
I think that's good there.
Don't forget, February retreat on 2/15 at 9 a.m. My computer just died, so now I'm going off memory. But I remember what the second line was. We are in budget mode, so we have shifted. This is the time of year that I come alive. I'm working with really closely with Ms. Lavender at the County Tax Assessor's Office to get some of those, because I know that there's a lot of things up in the air about revale. So we want to get that information as quickly as possible. They are running late. They are 7 days late on the forecast, but who's counting? And they will get them to us as quickly as possible. So, and with that, Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything else.
Thank you, sir. I forgot to come up with my order, but I'll start with the left, and we'll go left to right tonight. Councilman Ellis?
As always, I appreciate the staff. We're working on the holidays. They still got our garbage up, and we're proud of all our staff, police, Mike. I'm still missing the signs a little bit about what we're gonna do towards that direction. I discussed a little bit with the town manager about our entrance signs.
That was my last bullet, but my computer died. So the lights that we put in those lithium battery lights, they burned the lights up, because our portable lights couldn't handle the batteries. And so they were packing too much of a punch. But new lights are in the mail and on the way.
Thank you. Councilman
I
Wood?
have no comment tonight.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Lit?
No comment, thank you.
Councilman Thomas?
As always, thank you for the hard work on the audit. That's a lot of work. Thank you for the hard work on putting together the agenda, and just a happy new year to everybody. That's all.
Councilman Green?
I'd like to echo that, we can get Rhonda some help quickly as we can. I think that's very evident, so I know everybody's working on that, but, do appreciate your work on the audit. Believe me, I know, I've been through a lot of those, so I do know how all hard work goes in. Sometimes you spend 30 minutes talking about it and think, well, but I know you spend months and months and months working about it. Don't worry about the finding of Adam.
My first one.
Well, Hopefully it'll be your last, but
I hope so.
Happy.
at least we know they're looking.
I still think I could have argued with her over it.
Well, I think so too. But, Christmas parade was great. Yeah, I mean, like, we already talked about it, but I know that everybody, all the staff was involved in it. I know that you took the lead there, and I really appreciate that. And, do we still have the snow plow?
We got one. We do. Paige said we bought one.
It is out there, and I wonder if we're gonna need to cut the ribbon when we maybe
Why
unveil it
didn't I
this
talk to
week.
you about for the meeting?
But it's out there. So,
We have big citizens.
we have big scissors, they're all.
Do you have to be certified to drive the truck to run the snow?
Now that I don't know.
Can I ride in the truck?
Yeah, you can. You can just show up. I think they'll let whoever do whatever if it's snowing, whoever shows up.
Just like the finish was saying, I think it's gonna be a good year for us, got a lot of things on board, and I think by this time next year, hopefully a lot of those, we're gonna see dirt moving, shovels moving, traffic lights going up, we'll see a lot of stuff, got a lot of stuff on the board, on the planning board, and I think we'll see a lot of that.
I failed to, to the first point Councilman Green made, tomorrow you will all see a job posting, for an assistant. So you appropriated that money this evening as part of that grant project ordinance. And so that money is now in there. These two gentlemen on the front row are 2/4 of the engineering team for the South Main Street project. I meant to say that earlier.
2/4, that's half.
Yes, sir. I thought 2/4. I thought 2/4.
I believe he was an accounting professor.
So they are one half of our dynamic team. I think, right? Aren't y'all half? Okay, they're roughly half of the team, and so if you have anything South Main Street related while they're here, feel free to bring their ear. And I'm done now.
I forgot what else I was gonna say.
Oh, it's
You
gonna be-
said in conclusion.
It'll be one more thing.
One more thing. Forgot what it was.
I feel sure. My dad taught me not to take myself too seriously, and so I do appreciate the levity and the good humor that we can conduct this business with. I've tried to keep up with where all we've gone tonight with knocking people down for chili and other types of references. I do again apologize for taking us on a rabbit trail with the schedule there, but it will never beat the amount of time we spent discussing whether or not we should paint our fire hydrants a color other than red. That lasted probably an hour and a half. I think we were on that at one point. And so I am glad that we don't take ourselves too seriously, but at the same time, we do serious work. What we do here is important. Thank you, gentlemen, for bringing and doing these studies for us at Safe Streets for All. I know we've seen you around in other capacities, and we look forward to working with you. Our fund balance meets the goal that they raised on us significantly just a couple of years ago. We are in sound financial shape. The grants that we have that create these problems for us, $40,000 going to go into these facilities to help our kids out. The sewer systems that we are continuing to work on to update to get above that 50%. Culverts, nobody thinks about culverts, and nobody thinks that we have soccer balls stuck in our culverts, but we're working on that kind of stuff. Safe Streets for Y'all, full scholarships to Garden Webb University, of which I'm an alumnus. And so, I mean, these things are really, really important, and nothing better than having our young people, thank you for continuing to take care of that, to come in here and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance each week. So I really do appreciate the good humor from us all. We're out of here like 2 hours early tonight, but it is serious work, and I appreciate the wisdom and foresight that you guys each and every week and every month take care of it. So Happy New Year to everybody. Is there a motion to?
There is not. I thought about that. It's very important. It's very important to me. Do we, Ingalls, they haven't had any heat for 6 weeks in the store. I think we should go on record and writing them a letter and saying, hey, what's going on? The ladies in there have toboggans on and gloves, and the lady this morning told me, my toes feel like ice. She's running the cash register. It's unacceptable.
But I wonder how much.
It's unacceptable.
Their corporate office being decimated in Asheville.
Go on.
I know, but.
I mean,
I don't know, maybe call labor board.
that's what I suggested that
Oh, okay.
to the employee. I mean, it's ridiculous. 6 weeks of him without heat, no heat in the store.
We can recruit business like Publix
It is
and
that.
other places.
Well,
Yeah, we're beating that drum. I would say, I'm sorry, we do have some in the pipeline, but I can't tell you which ones they are, but we've got a couple.
But one of those things.
There are some fruit on the tree, not apples.
Well, I mean, to me, it's just, it infuriates me. That you go in their other stores and you look at their other stores and then you go in our store. I mean, really, well, I'm done.
Mary Grace didn't have time to print the audit books, they're still at the printer, so if you want a physical copy of the audit book, let me know. And, or if you wanna talk about the audit, I have you, me, and Rhonda one, Councilman Litton.
As long as Councilman Lee gets one, the rest of us don't worry.
If you wanna talk about the audit, I'm not allowed to talk about that with you in the meeting tonight because we'd be here until 10. But if you wanna talk about it, please let me know. I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, I was just joking about the 2 hours earlier.
Yeah,
Is
nobody
there,
wants to talk about it.
is there a motion to adjourn?
No, time out. Just one. I didn't have anything, so I'm going back and picking up my time. The only thing I got to talk about is, I was thinking about as we were talking, all the grant monies that
Oh, yeah, amen.
that our town manager, Tracy, I don't know, Isaac, I'm sure Rhonda, I don't know who all does the grant writing, but they have done a bang up job to get our town money that our taxpaying citizens doesn't have to pay back to. It's just above and beyond, so that's just awesome, that's all.
Amen, that's a good one. I'm glad to know that.
Great point.
I agree.
Is there a motion to adjourn? This is why there doesn't need to be a motion to adjourn. That's bang my gavel.
And if you don't have to have one.
I know. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Sounds okay. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Happy New Year. See you guys later.
Better, right?
You said they get very, he gave you